This week's channeled message from the angels is specifically addressing the atrocities in the world right now and talking about it from a spiritual perspective. How do we understand these atrocities and what is justice? What is justice from a spiritual perspective? So, welcome back to my channel, you guys. I am so thankful that you are sharing these messages with me. I'm grateful that you're here. And for those of you who are new here, welcome. My name is Ann Tucker. I'm a trance channel. I channel from the angelic realm, and I do that by raising my awareness as high as I can go. I go a little higher, I connect, and then messages and healing come through, and I share it here with you guys on YouTube. So, as I was saying, today's message it is a profound message, and it helps us to really encounter and to see some of the ways that we feel and what it might lead us into in terms of wanting justice, right? But they remind us about our role, who we are, and what we're meant to do. The biggest thing I think to know is they're talking about these energies of person against person, is that energy cannot follow us through this shift in consciousness. So this is a very uplifting, helpful message. I know you guys are going to love it. So, for those of you who have heard about my soul convergence process, I wanted to let you know, if you are interested in being part of that process, it starts again in February. Soul convergence is a very deep healing program that I started. The last session was the first time we did it, and the results have been fantastic. We can see the progress in people's dreams that they are showing even after the first portion, just the first 4 weeks of the 11-week program. Over half the people had already balanced their masculine energy, which is just incredible because that's something that took me years to do, years and years to do. So it is the angels are working overtime in this process. Anyways, the program starts again. We'll be running another session that starts February 10th. I don't have all of the stuff ready for you to sign up. If you'd like to, I will have it in the next couple of days. I just wanted to let you know so you could mark your calendars. If you want to do it, it's the commitment. It takes about at least an hour a day, where sometimes some of the meditations are shorter, but you want to ideally do the meditations every day during this process. There's a 2-week break in the middle, but it's 11 weeks long, and it is a commitment. So it's ideal not to do any other types of healing during the program, because you're building up a system of energy, and other healing methods might clear out that system and take away the progress you're making. So, it's starting, like I said, February 10th. Mark your calendar, and I will be giving you more information about it and sharing some of the amazing stories of the people who are in it right now. All right, I hope you guys enjoy the message. So this message came, like I said, this is a message about forgiveness. And it's so interesting because I woke up this morning, and usually in my morning routine, I check my emails. I check and see what I get. And I check the comments on YouTube. I check my emails, and I got 2 this morning. One of which was from my dad, and he was forwarding me. He's saying, "Wow, there's all this chaos happening in Mecca. That apparently right now there are crazy floods that just happened in Mecca, like very unusual flooding, and also like swarms of insects." He said something about locusts. I couldn't find it. I did search, and it was like cockroaches all over. So, anyways, it was like there's crazy stuff. I'm not totally sure of all the details. Crazy stuff apparently going on in Mecca. And of course, on YouTube, all the people who are like posting stuff about it are like, Judgment Day. It's, judgment, judgment, judgment. That there's this sense of that we have to pay for our sins. The sense that the wrath of the divine is going to come after us and make us suffer. So I saw that. And then I'm looking through comments on YouTube, and there's someone who comments on, it was one of the videos I did. Let me get the actual video for you so you have the reference. It was the video is the tidal process of leaving the planet. So it's an older video, and someone commented on that video, and they were like, okay, because the message basically says that everybody gets equal access to leave, like in terms of leaving and going to, is the concept of people who are leaving, and the concept of and everyone being cared for, no one being lost, that everyone's included, that the ascension is available to everyone. And somebody was kind of mad about it and saying, like, what about like all the atrocities that are happening right now? The people, the innocents who are being killed. I think I just read that in Gaza, something like 20,000 people have died that are just, civilians have died. And so they're saying, well, what about this? Like, this is, basically saying it's not fair. It's not fair that those people who are doing the murdering get to stay here, and those people who have been, who've been murdered are dead. And so it's so interesting that to get both of those messages this morning, right as I'm getting ready to share this message with you guys. Like, everything's on purpose. And then I also heard right before I went to bed that this was, I think there must be like an annual Christmas pardoning or something like that Biden just pardoned people who had drug possessions who have been imprisoned, and he just did a massive pardoning. So this concept of forgiveness and Christmas, like that, right? They're married together. And so interesting that I'm being confronted with evidence of judgment at the same time. Yeah. And Mary likes my Christmas chair. Thank you, Mary. Thank you. Thank you for seeing me. I feel seen. So anyway, so the message is, it's speaking to all of that. And of course, in the way the angels do, speaking to it beautifully, helping us to see ourselves, to understand ourselves. So let's dive in. All right. Here's what they say. Beings of light, we have found through you many ways and means of bringing the light to earth. Through you, we have discovered the elements of love and prosperity between people. Through you, we have discovered the many methods and ways of forgiving, of loving capacity, of expanded nature, a foreshadowing of what is the next instantiation of humanity. We wish to bring your attention to all you have made of yourselves. In this new wave of energy of how you have elevated your soul and your capacity to become more of what you are, while enabled to be within this realm. How you've anchored into this experience a greater depth of meaning, of care for one another. And you say and have found the truth of divine nature, that it instills in your heart the capacity for grounding into this world what you are, the holiness that you share, and the willingness to absolve your brethren for all their cares and suffering. The willingness to take your part, your hand in the conveyance of the light to all beings, to stay here, to remain in the safe harbor of your own awakening, while sharing and bestowing upon others the greatness of the capacity you would bring to them, their ability to find their own true north, their way homeward. Into this calling you have stepped. In this world, in this life, you were brought forward into times without trust, with no peace. You surrendered yourself to become what you are again. Into the holiness of this life, we pour the resolve you have chosen, the strength of your nature, the willingness to thrive in times of chaos. We pour into the mold of shadow which created your life, the greater folly of how you are founded. We make space for your truth to reignite within you and allow these happenings to recalibrate your soul, to return to you what is your truth. We speak now of the justness of living, of what is unjust in the nature of the human, of what carries an emptiness where there sits no morality, injustice, where it sits upon the heart heavy, an encumbrance, where it weighs you down in the observance, where you feel it. Injustice rankles the human mind, creates energy of resistance in the body. We wish to call to you in the mind that feels heavy, where injustice settles itself in your field, where it feels like one thing that must be exhausted, a force upon you, a weight in the world that must be dislodged through force upon it, as though you are instilled in this earth to fight for a cause, for friendship, for resolve, for what speaks to you. But we say, in the exhaustion of this world, justice can play no part and can have no resolution. There cannot be a time within these folds of renewal where injustices are rectified. This is not how the timing shall play out. This is not a time for the fruition of those greater wills who can dominate in the field of the paltry and the mean, to meet their Maker and find themselves in the stalls of judgment for their greater ills. We say to have no purpose, to form nothing in the favor of justice, to feel it is an anchor, a weight upon you. Know yourselves well able and capable of knowing in the soul and the self what ails you, what furthers your quest for connection and love, and what distracts you. But all are not so capable, all are not so clear. And the concept of justice carries for you a weight in this world. It tarries you against your purpose. It feels within its own heat and causality a method and means by which the earth should be purged. We say that polarity cannot exist in the process of this shift in consciousness. We cannot preserve the ridicule of some and the commitment to the downtrodden. But all must be observed in friendship. All must be carried to their goodness. Their weight in this world seems founded in their character and where they have laid their mistakes. But we would instill in your heart no meter for this inclination to judge another, to feel in your heart they have come, as you have, to play a part, to feel themselves aligned again, to find their way home. Some are mistaken and weigh upon the downtrodden. Some are heavy in their frequency and tarry in their length and the duration of this life longer than they should. Some keep themselves aground beneath the rays of light that would seek them. But they are of earth and the light just as you are, and we hold them in no contempt for their wrongdoings. We treat them equally. We draw them into the fold of the recalibration. Shall they be worthy of this ascension? Should they find their path equally met? We say we have no strict regimen by which to distinguish the good deeds from the blank or denigrating. We have instead the meter of acceptance, of willingness to turn another day to find renewal, a space in the heart to receive. We find within the compassion of self, of all that will allow the light of the divine to enter. Should they feel no release of these intolerant practices, there cannot be an acquisition of light. They do not meet in equal time. There cannot be a frequency of divine affection and self-love in the guardianship of one who holds others in contempt. They cannot meet together in one heart. Thus, though we've spoken no condemnation of those who travel this earth heavily upon the souls of those they've inflicted with pain or suffering, we speak to their hearts more gladly, more earnestly than is their due. We invite them into the fold of restitution, into the acceptance, the gladness, the open arms of ourselves, and the illumination of all that is before you. Invite them equally to participate in what is unfolding. Will they have it? We cannot speak to this, for free will governs all peoples. Free will calls to them equally, and they may choose it. But to go on hurting another person with the freedom they've been given does not contemplate the illumination within them. And they cannot rise should they bear such wounding within their own capacity. The turmoil of these times and the victimization in this realm cannot thrive in the new times that are rising. The space to create within yourselves the capacity to harm another will now find itself withered and susceptible to the greatest compassion that takes hold in the hearts of the all and the every. There cannot yield from this space of internal adjustment a desire to harm another, no more than one desires to harm themselves. Thus, the concept of justice and wrongdoing deserves rethinking. It weighs upon you heavy, like a blanket of responsibility that you cannot claim. It is only ours and all to love the eternal. It is only ours and all to be accepting. Transmissible is the energy of the divine, which sees all things, which leaves nothing unexposed to its illumination, which brings all things into the power of self-observation. And from this stance, each person shall have the opportunity to resolve their own goodness, to find their own hearts, to open their nature to what is the softness of self-love and divinity. So yeah, I think every week I'm like, this is my favorite message ever. They just get better and better, like better and better. To me, this message is like so simple and so profound at the same time. You know, I mean, they are saying, they're saying that it's basically saying that if we hold the energy of seeking justice, that we put ourselves into a position of heaviness in our heart, and that justice, the concept of justice, carries with it this concept of punishment, right? That that you can't have justice without punishment. And then that seeks its own way, which is not in the way of the light. And so they're saying, yeah, that you can't hold that frequency, that concept of justice, and still be in your own divinity. But they're saying that the concept of, or that the pathway forward is open to everyone, but that doesn't mean that people who have darkness in their heart, the desire or the ability to hurt others, that they can pass easily into this new frequency. And that's not a judgment. It is just physics. They're saying that these two things are not compatible in the heart, that you cannot have in the heart this concept of love and loving acceptance, and you can't, so in other words, you can't be your divine self and have the ability to harm others. That the two are like two frequencies that do not fit together. So that isn't judgment, that is physics. And so they're really speaking to our humanity and saying that when we witness all this stuff, it makes us mad. Like we have the emotion that we respond to it. We say that is just not right. And those people who are doing these hard, horrible things that are making people suffer, that can't be allowed, right? How can the divine allow this? And so this is a very deep and thorough, I think, and complex answer to that question. And I find it to be just kapow. You know what I mean? So let's see what you guys are saying. You're saying, and I missed Amina's concept. The season is all about forgiving, not about the Xmas tree or the chair. You're right. Exactly. And Rebecca, hey, Rebecca. So happy seasons, tons of love from Portugal. Thank you so much. Happy seasons, Rebecca. And Maureen says, wow, this is a high level perspective on our desire for justice. I love it. Me too. I know, right? Susanna says, such a beautiful Christmas message about love. It really is. Rebecca says, so very beautiful. Yeah, I love it too. Stishu says, it reminds me, anger doesn't cause by what others do. Anger is caused by a need within us not being met. Justice probably works the same way. It is not for us to judge what is right or wrong. Divine is fair in the overall scheme of things. Yeah, I think it is. That it's really, really interesting that this way of thinking about justice is so incredibly kind to ourselves, that it allows us to stay in our highest frequency, in our highest light, and know that these energies of the ability to harm others can't come with us, right? That it is a physical impossibility. That physics is the method by which and so it's not a judgment. It's not one person saying you are wrong or you are right. It's completely neutral, and it allows the choice to stay entirely in the hands of each person. So there's no one that has to be convinced. There's no one that has to be, prayed to, like, please forgive me. None of that. It is entirely up to the individual. And it's literally like, are you going to hold this frequency or that frequency? What do you want? You get to do either. What do you choose? So it's really magic, and it frees us from having to hold that incredible responsibility of being the judger, because you can't really be a judger without then getting meshed in karma. Yeah, it is really amazing, really amazing. Martha says, love this message. Me too. So let's go ahead and break it down. I feel like this one is they were very clear in their voice on this message. So I feel like it's pretty clear, but let's go through it and reread it, and we'll see if there's any parts. They do have a couple places here that we should break down. They say, beings of light we have found through you. I love the beginning, how they're like, you guys rock. They're like, we have learned so much because of how you have been on earth, right? They've learned all about the human nature and how the divine light expresses itself through us. So this is cool. They say, beings of light we have found through you many ways and means of bringing the light to earth. So this is cool. They're giving us a lot of credit here. They say, through you we have discovered the elements of love and prosperity between people. Through you, we have discovered the many methods and ways of forgiving, of loving capacity, of expanded nature, and they're saying, so these are all ways that we have grown in our souls, and that they have learned about what it is, like how is the divine expressed on earth. They've learned about all this through us. And they say these things that we have demonstrated, that we have held, are all a foreshadowing of what is the next instantiation of humanity. So in other words, as we evolve into this great shift in consciousness, we're going to see more of this, right? More love and prosperity between people, more ways of forgiving, more loving capacity and expanded nature. This is more of that. That's what we want more of. That's what's coming. Next paragraph, they say, we wish to bring your attention to all you have made of yourselves. So like they want us to focus on this and to notice like how amazing we have been. Thank you. In this new wave of energy of how you have elevated your soul and your capacity to become more of what you are, while enabled to be within this realm. So all the ways in which we've been able to bring the divine to earth. How you've anchored into this experience a greater depth of meaning, of care for one another. So this is really giving us credit, and they're really pointing out to show us that we have done this. And I think this is important in terms of as we think about where we get angry, to note that we've already brought so much divine energy. They're showing us that we can do this, that we can be on an earth where there still is horrible things happening, where there are atrocities happening right now. And we can be in that, and we can feel our feelings, and we can also be in our divine nature. And they're showing us we have this ability. That's why I think they're mentioning all this stuff, why they're bringing our attention to this. Teresa says, but they have told us we have to witness the atrocities. I can't help but judge if I have to see it. And I think it is, yes, we have to. I don't think they mean that we have to see, like to see the horrible, horrible, horrible. Like I don't think you have to put yourself in the position of having to bathe in it. And I don't think that's being asked of us. I think we have to be witness to the shift of what's happening, that they want us to witness the healing, right? It isn't so much that we have to witness the evil that's happening. We have to witness the transformation that occurs because of the evil. And that's the piece, that's the healing. So they want us to witness the healing. Yeah. And the healing needs to be witnessed. The pain needs to be witnessed, not the evil or the desire to hurt. So by witnessing pain, we heal it. Because the thing is that when somebody feels pain, one of the hardest things about it is there's this part of them that believes it can't be true. So they have this separation inside of themselves where they feel the pain, and then there's this part of them that says, that couldn't have happened to me. How did that happen? That couldn't have happened. So they feel unseen. So we want to witness that, but we don't have to witness the evil. Does that make sense? I think that makes it a lot easier. So then we are taken out of the role of judging. Sherry says, thank you for being so beautiful. Oh, that was so nice. Thank you. I am grateful. Thank you so much, Sherry. Teresa says, good. Thank you. Yeah, I'm good. Good. I'm glad that made sense, Teresa. Thanks. So they go on to say in the next paragraph, and Rebecca says, taking out the judgment. Exactly. Okay, here we go. They go, the next paragraph, they say, and you say and have found the truth of divine nature. So I really like this. They're saying you say, so much is about our words and what we, like the whole idea that our thoughts create things and that our voices are important. Like this happens, that comes up all the time in healing where they want us to say our name or to speak words, that it carries a frequency that we create with our voices. And like, I think about this when you hear that like in like ancient Egypt, that somehow they moved these stones through singing, through carrying frequency with their voice, that our voices are incredibly powerful. And we found the truth of divine nature, that it instills in your heart the capacity for grounding into this world what you are, the holiness that you share, and the willingness to absolve your brethren for all their cares and suffering. So this is really interesting. This is the moment in this message where they tie what it is to be divine to forgiveness. They're showing us that these two are almost like interwoven. And if you think about this in the Christmas message, right, the holiday message, to include everyone, this concept, because it's true in all traditions, that this idea that Yeshua came to the earth to forgive all of us, right? This was the whole idea of him being killed and everything was forgiveness, to forgive ourselves, to give us forgiveness. So these two concepts have always been intertwined, that divinity and forgiveness have been connected. And they're saying here that the holiness that you share and the willingness to absolve your brethren, so these two are together, your holiness and your willingness to absolve, right there in the same sentence, for all their cares and suffering. So interesting here. And again, it takes us out of judgment. They're not saying that we're going to absolve them because they're hurting all these people and committing atrocities and being horrible. They're cutting right through that and saying, look underneath that and see their cares and their suffering. That the only reason why someone turns to that kind of darkness is because they're holding that darkness inside their heart, that they have that wounding inside of them, right? That there's wounding at the source of all of it. So they're cutting right through. They're saying, don't focus on the atrocities, focus on that those people are wounded. And so we're absolving them in this, and that is our holiness, right? The willingness to take your part, your hand in the conveyance of the light to all beings, to stay here, to remain in the safe harbor of your own awakening, while sharing and bestowing upon others the greatness of the capacity you would bring to them, their ability to find their own true north, their way homeward. And that word absolve means to declare someone free from blame, guilt, or responsibility. That's what absolve means. So the willingness to absolve your brethren, right? To free them, declare them free from blame, guilt, or responsibility. And I know that seems incredibly hard when we see what's going on right now, but recognize that our role is not to judge. That the judgment, if you want to call it that, it's all tied into their free will of choice. And know the main thing that we want to know is that in the new way of being, can these energies come with us? Can we have atrocities? Can we have this kind of suffering in this shift of consciousness? And they're saying, no, we can't. And that's what matters. So if somebody decides they want to hold on to that energy, that they're not willing to let it go inside of themselves, that they want to keep the capacity to harm others, then they can't shift. They just can't. The two can't exist in the same heart. And I love that part of this. It's probably my favorite part of the whole message. We'll get to that. And then we'll just read it like 15 times. So the idea is that the conveyance of the light to all beings is the conveyance of the divinity, the conveyance of forgiveness, right? It's all connected here. It's a huge part of what is our divine nature, is the ability to forgive. They go on to say in the next paragraph, and in doing so, right, by forgiving them, we give them their ability to find their own true north, right, their way homeward. It makes me think of, I know we've talked about it several times, I think, together, is that idea of there's some community in Africa, that a culture in Africa, that when someone in their community does wrong, does something that hurts another person, they don't punish them. They put them in the circle, and then everyone forms a circle around them, the whole community. And the whole community sings their birth song, that each person when they're born gets a song that is like their birth song. This is your truth. This is who you are. And when they do something that violates that truth, that goes against their own divinity, they put them in the circle and remind them of who they are by singing to them. And this is their punishment. This is how they punish. And I think it is so beautiful, right? It is that idea that by forgiving, we make space for them to find their own true north, right? That everybody can be redeemed. Everybody can find their way back to grace. And that is beautiful. Next paragraph, they say, into this calling you have stepped. So they're saying, this is our whole thing. This is us. This is why we're here, into this calling. You have stepped in this world, in this life. You were brought forward into times without trust, with no peace. You surrendered yourself to become what you are again. So they're saying you came full knowing that this is what Earth is. And this is so interesting, you guys. In our last session of Soul Convergence, we're working on the Divine Feminine at the moment, and the healings have been profound. And they're working a lot around birth at the moment. And the last healing was focused on the feelings our souls would have had coming to Earth and seeing all the atrocities. Like, talk about timing, right? So it was all about the horror of humanity and how humanity hurts one another, and our feelings about that as we came in, as we became human, as we stepped into the human realm, but we still have access to our divinity, and we see, right? And we see into the collective, and we see the willingness to hurt other people. And that horror is what we were trying to heal in the last session. So, like, just, of course, everything ties together. It's amazing to me, just amazing to me. And Sushi says, I think judgment is usually comes from fear, not love, because love forgives all. That's so true. Teresa says, how I try to do the forgiveness, I imagine them as children and wonder what had to happen to them to make them so horrible. I think that is beautiful, Teresa. And yeah, absolutely, because then we focus on their wounding. Yeah. And Rebecca says, times without trust. Yeah. And they've talked about, the angels have talked about that a lot, about how trust is trust. And think about trust and separation. How we have been in a period of separation and we're trying to move into a place of unity, and how you can't have unity without trust, because unity requires that you completely expose yourself. To be unified with another person means there's nothing between you and the other person, right? That there are no walls, there's no barricades, there's no boundaries. Unity, right? Unity is one being, one consciousness, that we're one. And you can't be one if you're like, okay, I'm one, but I'm going to protect myself from you because I don't trust you, because I think you might send me some bad juju, right? I don't think you're going to steal my energy, so I'm going to barricade myself from you. But we're all one, right? Like, we can't be one. Like, one is one. Like, think in the body. Like, one, you're one body, and everything in your body is permeable to everything else. You know, it's all one system. And that's what we're trying to get to, oneness. And we've been in a time without trust, and that means that we have been in a time where we don't trust each other, so we create separation. We hold ourselves apart, and that has been necessary. Like, it has been a good thing to have this separation. It's taught us a ton about our own vibration and about finding our way back to source from the center of our soul, from our own divinity. And it's been a necessary thing because we are intermixed with all frequencies down here right now, right? Everything. It's like the wild, wild west on Earth. Everything goes. So we've had to keep ourselves separate, but it has been a world without trust, and we have to resolve that in order to shift. So we have to get to a place where we learn to interact with each other slightly differently, where we are, and that's a whole nother conversation. And I think there's other messages about that. We may have to go into that because it's a deep conversation about how we have to come in. It's almost like we have to hold the light of the divine and then express our trust, because that's the way that we're not harmed by anything. We come in and we hold our own energy first. We have to be connected, right? We have to be unified inside. And then it's safe for us to interact in this open, trusting way, right? Before that, we're vulnerable. We have all this wounding. We're off balance. We can be affected by what's out there. So if we come in totally trusting and we're off balance, that negativity is going to attach to our wounding because we're off balance. So the process is heal ourselves, get balance. That is why I'm doing soul convergence right now. That is why the angels brought soul convergence now, is this idea that we have to balance. We have to balance our masculine and feminine energies. We have to get unified inside, connect to source. And from that unified space, it is safe for us to trust, right? Then from that place, we can move out into the world differently. Boy, we're going deep today. And I know it's like, I wish we had hours. It's like hours to cover this stuff, because there's so much in this conversation that we're just touching lightly. But I know these are like fundamental, so important, these concepts, so important about where we are right now. Okay, so I'm trying to try to stick with the message because we could just talk for hours. Here we go. The next paragraph, into the holiness of this life, we pour the resolve you have chosen. I love this part, the strength of your nature. So this life is a holy vessel, right? It is holy because we are trying to come to earth, hold our divinity, and express forgiveness for everything that happens here, right? Which is, and find our way back to our own truth, right? This is the goal. And forgive ourselves, forgive everyone else, which is part of our healing, heal ourselves, find our way back to the light, open ourselves up to trust, all of this stuff, right? So into the holiness of this life, this holy vessel of this life, we pour the resolve you have chosen. What is our resolve? Our resolve is the strength of your nature, the willingness to thrive in times of chaos. We pour into the mold of shadow, which created your life, the greater folly of how you are founded. So the mold of shadow, which created your life, think about when you're born into a family that wounds you. And this is on purpose. And this is the mold of shadow, which formed your life. It's the karma that you bring into the life that creates the container that you have to find yourself through. So this is the holy container, right? It is the mold of shadow that you then are poured into, which becomes all the wounds and all the junk we have to work through for the rest of our life. So they pour into this mold the greater folly of how the greater folly of how we're founded is like they're saying, yeah, it's nuts how we're founded here. Like how we're made, they're saying, yeah, it can be terrible. The greater folly is like that they're not saying it's good that we get wounded. It is the sort of the chaotic way of being human up until now. Right? They say, we make space for your truth to reignite within you, within this form of this divine life, right there, and allow these happenings, all the happenings of the mold that we are in, all the happenings of our childhood, all the happenings of the wounds that we've received, to recalibrate the soul, to return to you what is your truth. So then they go on to say, we speak now of the justness of living, of what is unjust in the nature of the human. So now they're bringing it to this concept of justice, right? And then they say of what carries an emptiness where there sits no morality, injustice. So they're talking about how do we think about this from a spiritual perspective, this concept of what is where there's no morality, right? Where there's emptiness inside, where people are harming other people. That's what they're talking about here, injustice. And then they say where it sits upon the heart heavy. So they're speaking to us. It sits on our hearts heavy. And encumbrance, right? It's a heaviness and encumbrance that we carry, where it weighs you down in the observance. So seeing it makes us feel terrible. Where you feel it, injustice rankles the human mind. It creates energy of resistance in the body because we see terrible things and we feel like we have to do something. We feel like we've got to stop that. This is horrible, right? So it creates this energy of like, I need to rise forward and do something to stop this from happening, these horrible things. So it creates an energy of resistance, injustice does, inside of us. And Kathy says, is it ever not deep? You're so right. Yeah, totally. And they say, the next paragraph, they say, we wish to call to you into the mind that feels heavy, where injustice settles itself in your field. And they're saying this to all of us, that we cannot see this stuff and not feel it, right? That it hurts us to see it. And so they're saying, let's look at where it settles in our field. They say where it feels like one thing that must be exhausted. And they're really speaking to what is the emotional experience of seeing these atrocities. It feels like something has to be done, right? That it's something that must be exhausted. A force upon you, a weight in the world that must be dislodged through force upon it. So we feel called to action. We feel like we've got to do something to fix this, right? To punish those bad guys who did this horrible thing, right? As though you are instilled in this earth to fight for a cause, for friendship, for resolve, for what speaks to you. So, and I don't mean bad guys as then that it's all guys. It's men and women are both equally capable of holding the capacity to harm other people. They might harm them differently, but those of you who come from, abuse, that often there's abuse of mothers as much as there's abuse of fathers. It might look different sometimes, but gender is not tied to the capacity to harm another person. It's equal opportunity to go down into the dark space, right? And then they go on to say, but we say in the exhaustion of this world, So, and here they're speaking to, and they've talked about this in some of their past messages, that the energy of exhaustion is what we're moving through right now. So this is that idea that in order to kind of expunge the world of darkness, to shift the planet into a new state of frequency, a higher state of frequency, the energy, these dark energies, they have to be brought down to exhaustion, that they have to be. And so think about this in terms of what we see in the world right now and the way some of these cataclysmic events are happening. They're not coming in and bringing things into a state where they can be repaired again. They're being burnt to the ground, where they have to be completely rebuilt. So think about like whole blocks, in these war-torn areas right now that are being just demolished down to the ground, where there's nothing left. Fires down to the ground. It's that concept that things have to be, the energy has to be exhausted. And this is so that the structures that are in the world can't just rebuild themselves. That we don't want to bring it down to a place where they still have some of their resources and they can turn around and just be like, great, we're just going to hold you all down long enough so that we can rebuild ourselves and stay on top of you. And we need to bring it down to the place where there's nothing left. And this is talking about the negative energies in the world. So they go on to say, I'll repeat this paragraph. They say, but we say in the exhaustion of this world, justice can play no part and have no resolution. So in the process of bringing things down to exhaustion, bringing those energies down to exhaustion, the justice can't play a role. So they say there cannot be a time within these folds of renewal where injustices are rectified. So in other words, no judgment is going to happen. This is not how the timing shall play out. I think this is so important because it has been such a part of so many religious texts. And I think this is where religion has taken spirituality and turned it against us. Where religion has told us that you better do what we say or you're going to be judged, right? It's a way of controlling people. And they're clearly saying the angels are telling us that judgment is not a thing. It's only ourselves that judge ourselves. And they say that there cannot be a time within these folds of renewal where injustices are rectified. This is not how the timing shall play out. There is not a time for and this is an interesting paragraph, this is not a time for the fruition. And the fruition I think of as like the story that we would play out, where it feels so satisfying, where what is the end result we want to see to the storyline. We want to see it where those greater wills who can dominate the field of the paltry and the mean. So in other words, those people, the greater wills who have strong will, who are ready to go out and hurt, right, to dominate others, who are, who have paltry and mean emotions, right, who are ready to hurt other people. That those people meet their maker and find themselves in the stalls of judgment for their greater ills. That's the fruition of the story that we feel in our emotions. We're like, we want to see them get their due, right? And they're saying, this is not going to happen. They're telling us, nope, that's not going to happen. And they say, we say to have no purpose, to form nothing in the favor of justice. They're telling us, so don't hold this in our hearts. Don't hold that story in our hearts. To feel it is an anchor, a weight upon you. Know yourselves well able and capable of knowing, and this is interesting too. So they're saying, know that if we hold that in our energy in us, it holds us down, right? It brings us into a relationship of polarity with others, and they don't want that for us. And then they go on to say, know yourselves well able and capable of knowing in the soul and the self what ails you, what furthers your quest for connection and love, and what distracts you. They're just saying you have good judgment, right? You know the right from the wrong inside of you, right? You know what speaks to your heart. But they say, but all are not so capable. All are not so clear. So there are others who can't find their path easily, who are lost, right? They say, and the concept of justice carries for you a weight in this world. It tarries against you your purpose, or it tarries you against your purpose. It feels within its own heat and causality a method and means by which the earth should be purged. So the concept of injustice carries with it the concept of punishment. So it feels within its own heat, and that punishment usually comes from anger, right? It carries heat, anger. So in that anger, we then say, well, you should be punished, right? And so they're saying this is how it works against us. It puts us into the role of judger, and it brings our vibration way, way, way down. So that's how it pulls us against our purpose. And And then Mary says, this is really a reimagining of what our role is as change makers in society. It is hard not to want to right injustice, but I guess holding the light can be the method of righting justice. That's exactly right. The more we hold the light, and that is where we have to shift our thinking, that it is more powerful to hold the light than it is to punish someone. Much more powerful. Think about the circle, singing, reminding people of their truth, how much more powerful that is. And they're saying that you don't have to worry that this stuff is going to follow us into this higher frequency. If we are all able and willing to raise our frequency, this stuff can't come with us. So it is a self-curing problem if we can hold the light. So they're saying don't put yourself, and then if we go into the role of justice, if we go into the role of the punisher, we lower our frequency and we stay in the place where more of these atrocities can be perpetrated. So they're saying our way through is to raise the frequency for everyone, right? And to let people have their own choice, but to know they can't come if they're going to try to stay in that low vibe. Yeah. And then Teresa says, I think that means no retaliation, turn the other cheek. It does mean no retaliation. Yeah, it does. But I think it is I think the important thing is we can turn the other cheek to the people who are committing the atrocities, but to not turn the other cheek to those who are the victims, to hold out to them, to witness their pain and their suffering, right? So that they can heal from it. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And then, let's see, let me go on. So stopping the polarity. Yeah, stopping the polarity. Erica says, get out of the eye for an eye mentality. 100%, Erica. Thank you for that. Yeah. Erin says, this is just what I needed. This has been on my mind as I decorate and celebrate. How can I find joy and make a magical solstice season while so many are suffering? Oh, you're so right, Erin. I feel so impotent to help. Holding light, joy, and peace is so also important while acknowledging what is happening. Thank you. Yes, this message is so helpful. Thank you, Maureen. Yeah, it really is. And you're right, because there is like it is that there's also that it's survivor's guilt where it's like, well, how can I be so happy when others are not? And I think, remember what they said up here, which is, I think, so just speaks exactly to that, where they say that, where is it? That they talked about that you were willing to come into this life and to make a good life for yourself, despite what is going on in the world, right? That they actually referenced that you had the courage to come and to try to have a good life, even while bad stuff is happening. Yeah, that you have the courage, where I can't see where that is again, but it's back there somewhere in the message. So, okay, so they go on to say, okay, going on, where is it? Here it is. We say that polarity cannot exist in the process of this shift in consciousness. And that by polarity, they mean where someone is the victim and someone is the perpetrator, where we're judging someone else. That type of polarity where we're putting someone else into the hot seat and saying you have to be judged and punished. That polarity cannot exist in the process of this shift in consciousness. We cannot preserve the ridicule of some and the commitment to the downtrodden. So this is the two sides. One is that we're saying we're tearing some people down because they did wrong, and being committed to the downtrodden. Those two can't come together, or we can't have that polarity. But all must be observed in friendship. All must be carried to their goodness. Their weight in this world seems founded in their character and where they have laid their mistakes. But we would instill in your heart no meter, and a meter is a measure, but it's also a rhythm, like a repeating, a basic pattern. So they're saying we don't want to have the pattern of judgment, and judgment is also a measure. So we would instill in your heart no meter for this inclination to judge another. So they don't want this to be our pattern, our way of being. To feel in your heart they have come as you have to play a part. And so this is another piece of it, that sometimes people come and commit atrocities because it was part of a soul contract, where someone needed to re-experience a particular trauma in order to heal that part of themselves. And so they may have asked someone, will you come and please commit this atrocity to me so that I can have that experience, feel the emotions, and have the opportunity to respond differently. Like it can be a thing where somebody in a past life, they came and they experienced atrocity, and their response to that atrocity was to become a perpetrator themselves. They turned around and hurt other people. And they want to say, I want to heal that in myself. I don't want to be that person. I don't want to be the person that commits atrocities. And in order to heal that, I have to feel the atrocity first. So they said, will you come and hurt me so that I can heal this differently this time, so that I don't become a perpetrator, right? So think of it that way, right? So to feel in your heart, they have come as you have to play a part, to feel themselves aligned again, to find their way home. The next paragraph, they say, some are mistaken and weigh upon the downtrodden. So they're saying that, yeah, this is not good. They're saying that it's not a great thing. They don't like this system that we have right now where we are hurting each other. That some are mistaken and weigh upon the downtrodden. They hurt the people who can be hurt. Some are heavy in their frequency and tarry in the length and duration of this life longer than they should. Some keep themselves aground beneath the rays of light that would seek them. So they're totally closed to the angels, right? Totally closed to their own divinity, right? That they keep themselves aground beneath the rays of the light. So they're totally avoiding all everything that's in them that's in divine. But they are of earth and the light, just as you are, and we hold them in no contempt for their wrongdoing. We treat them equally. We draw them into the fold of the recalibration. So they're given the chance. Even the people who are committing the atrocities are given the chance to rise again. Shall they be worthy of this ascension? Should they find their path equally met? We say we have no strict regimen by which to distinguish the good deeds from the blank or the denigrating. So I like that they clarify here that, and they're saying, number one, there's no like, the Judgment of St. Peter or something like that, where he sits there and he says, you didn't do enough good deeds and you're out. You have to go to the dark place. Like they're saying this is not how it works. And they're saying there's no strict regimen. There's no rule book that you have to like live by these rules in order to make it into heaven. That's not how it works. They're saying that there's no regimen to distinguish good deeds from the blank or denigrating. And so I think it's interesting to incorporate in that, where are the places where we were ambivalent? Like the blank, like where is it that we witnessed something happening and we did nothing, where we could have helped and we didn't? And that's included, because you might judge yourself right there. You might say, you know what, gosh, I saw that horrible thing happening and I didn't help. And I feel really bad about myself for that. So they're incorporating that. So it's not just the people who committed, sometimes not doing something it feels as bad as being the person who actually committed the atrocity. And so the denigrating, right? And to denigrate something is to make it dark, right? To belittle their worth or their importance, right? To denigrate something, to make it dark, to make it low, and to denigrate their worth, to make them feel bad about themselves. We have instead the meter of acceptance. So in other words, they're not going to judge us. They have instead the meter. The meter again is like that word is the measure, but it's also a pattern. We have our way of measuring, and our pattern is acceptance, of willingness to turn another day to find renewal, a space in the heart to receive. We find within the compassion for self of all that will allow the light of the divine to enter. So if a person is willing to lay down these negative ways of thinking and negative ways of being, which means to heal themselves, if this person is willing to heal because their darkness came from something inside of themselves that was wounded, if they're willing to heal, and when they heal, they let the light of the divine in, right? And then they're totally able, right, to shift to a higher state of consciousness. Next paragraph, should they feel no release of these intolerant practices, there cannot be an acquisition of light. So this is the physics part, where they say that if they don't let go of the dark energy that they have inside of them, they cannot hold the light. It just is, right? They said they do not meet in equal time. In other words, and I like this is again a reference to music. An equal time is like like the timing, like a metronome. Like things have to have a certain frequency or pattern of being played, right? And the concept of intolerant practices and light, they don't go together. They can't match. They say there cannot be a frequency of divine affection and self-love in the guardianship of one who holds others in contempt. They will not meet together in one heart. So they're saying that they can't, it just doesn't fit together. So that is the judgment. That is where it happens, is just by the physical reality of the fact that you can't hold self-love and divine and divinity in your heart and also be willing to hurt someone else. Right there. And then let's see here. Maureen says this message is so helpful. Awesome. Where is it? Erica says, I'm reflecting on the scale of consciousness and the placement of anger and acceptance. Quite different placements on the scale. Good visual reminder to raise the vibration. That is, yeah, you're right. On the scale of music, right? Thinking about different frequencies, different notes in a song, that a low note, right, versus a high note. And these can't be in the same heart. Yeah. Snizana says, this again means working with yourself because you can't hold space for others and accept the darkness in the world if you still haven't accepted your own shadows and felt some self-compassion for every aspect of yourself. That is 100% true. Yes, awesome. Rebecca says, we can no longer hold the polarity anymore. Yeah, that polarity of injustice that we think that they're wrong. You're right. That it's division. We have to move towards unity. Absolutely. Thus, though we've spoken no condemnation of those who travel this earth heavily upon the souls of those they've inflicted with pain or suffering, we speak to their hearts more gladly, more earnestly than is their due. So they're saying that they don't condemn them, and they're saying that they're not saying they like these behaviors. They're not saying this is good, right? That's more earnestly. They're giving them more credit. They're giving more space, more love. They're speaking to their hearts more earnestly than maybe they have earned in this life, right? And they're saying, yep, that's true. They're going to give them more shots, more cracks at the bat, more tries than maybe they have earned. And that is true because maybe they have been really, 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 really crummy, right? We invite them into the fold of restitution, into acceptance, the gladness, the open arms of ourselves, and the illumination of all that is before you. Right? Invite them equally to participate in what is unfolding. So we're saying, yep, they get the same chance that you do. And you may have gone through a whole life, this idea that we have to do good deeds in order to earn our way. That the only way that that's true is that it's about how do we feel about ourselves. And if doing good deeds brings you more love and more compassion for yourself and for others, then yeah, great. Then that's helping you get to heaven. Right? If it brings you peace in your own heart, if it helps you to heal, then yeah. But if it's a thing that's done because you're afraid of going to hell, then that's fear in your heart. And all that matters is what you feel. So if good deeds are done from fear, which is a lot of times how religion worked in the past, then that doesn't help anybody, right? That's not good. So yeah, because fear comes from our wounding, comes from the feeling that we can't trust. Yeah. Next paragraph. Will they have it? We cannot speak to this. For free will governs all people. So will the perpetrators of atrocities, will they have the light? Will they take this opportunity? They said, we can't say because free will is theirs, right? It governs all peoples. Free will calls to them equally and they may choose it. But to go on hurting another person with the freedom they've been given. So in other words, if they use that freedom, the freedom of free will, if they use it to hurt other people, then that does not contemplate the illumination within them, right? That means they're not feeling or seeing or accepting the divine light that they actually are. And they cannot rise should they bear such wounding within their own capacity. So they're really saying this is a wound, right? This is a wound. And if they hold that wound, that they cannot see their own divinity, they can't see that divine light, which would give them compassion, which would give them love, right? For other people. If they can't feel that, then they just can't rise. It's that scales on the notes on a scale. If they're holding this frequency, they can't also hold this frequency. You can only hold one at a time. So they go on next paragraph, and I kind of bolded this whole paragraph. The turmoil of these times and the victimization in this realm cannot thrive in the new times that are rising. And I think that's what we care about. When we think about what's happening, we just want to know it can't happen again. We want to say that was awful. And we understand we're going through a process of purging this earth of these dark energies, these dark feelings that have been stuck here. But we want to know, is it going to happen again? They're saying it can't. They're saying, nope, it cannot thrive in the new times that are coming. The space to create within yourselves, the capacity to harm another, will now find itself withered and susceptible to the greatest compassion that takes hold in the hearts of the all and the every. So in the process of becoming one, we develop this heightened state of empathy where we truly feel another person's feelings. And when we hold that, we can't also hold the desire or the feeling that it's okay to hurt them, because it feels just like hurting ourselves. So they're saying that that space inside of us currently, which has the capacity to hurt someone else, that withers and goes away. Super cool. There cannot yield from this space of internal adjustment a desire to harm another. No more than one desires to harm themselves. So this is what the shift is all about, is we change, that we are holding more light. And when we're holding more light, we can't also hold the desire to harm someone else. Thus, the concept of justice and wrongdoing deserves rethinking, right? This is part of the shift. We have to rethink these concepts. It weighs upon you heavy, like a blanket of responsibility that you cannot claim, right? So in other words, we feel like we should punish these people, but it's not really ours. We can't claim it. It's not our role. It's not what we're meant to be doing. We are meant to be the light of the divine, and the light of the divine is forgiving. That is what the light of the divine is. It's accepting of everyone equally. So we are that, and we're not supposed to be responsible to punish. That's not our job. Yeah, it is only ours to and all. It is only ours and all. In other words, angels, us. It is only ours. It is only our job to love the eternal. It is only ours and all to be accepting. Transmissible is the energy of the divine, which sees all things, which leaves nothing unexposed to its illumination. And I think they say this to let us know it's not that these deeds are unseen. It's not that these just happen and there's no consequence at all. That they're saying that all of these deeds, anything where someone harms another person, those are seen. And the way that it's seen is, we've all heard of the life review, that when someone goes over, they are made to feel the feelings of all the people that they hurt, that they experience what they committed. They experience it themselves, and that's how they're brought to an understanding, right? And so they see it. The perpetrator sees it, right? It's not, St. Peter or God or someone who's up there judging and saying, you get to, you go to the dark place. You get to go boil in vats of tar or whatever it is forever. It's not that. It is the person themselves. They have to see themselves. And that is the most powerful thing of all. That is so much more powerful than someone else judging us. Yeah. Transmissible is the energy of the divine, which sees all things, which leaves nothing unexposed to its illumination, which brings all things into the power of self-observation, right? See themselves. And from this stance, each person shall have the opportunity to resolve their own goodness. So that's the process, life review. They come in, they've done terrible things, they've got to pay the piper. They've got to feel it. And think about how scary it is to feel your own feelings. How much we resist our own negative emotions. How you may have really deep hurts, and the last thing you want to do is draw those up and feel them, because they are painful, right? And so a big part of healing is the courage to let that stuff rise up and to move through it, right? It's learning a process by which you can start to excavate those wounds. But yeah, people don't want to feel it because it hurts. So when they go over and they have to go through the life review, they are put in a place where they have to see and have to feel and have to be the recipient of everything that they created, right? That each person, and they say, and from this stance, from this self-observation, from this stance, they have the opportunity to resolve their own goodness. And I like that they say resolve, because they get to choose. Again, they resolve it. They choose what happens. They choose what it means to heal that. So we are not casting punishment. They are the ones who decide how to resolve it. They may, in that moment, through the process of the life review, say, oh my gosh, I want to change my feelings about this. I want to go and bless all those souls that I hurt. And that's how I'm going to resolve it. Or they may see, I need to resolve this, so I want to go live a life where I'm the one who's hurt, so that I can help this feeling I have inside of me. They get to choose how they want to solve it inside themselves, right? To find their own hearts, to open their nature to what is the softness of self-love and divinity. So how do they return to self-love and divinity? Each person gets to choose for themselves when they go through that process. Right? Yeah. I feel like this is a very important message. It's one of those things where we know all of these things on some level, but then there's also places where our human nature, we see horrible things and we have a reaction. And they're calling our attention to that reaction and bringing us back to our divinity and reminding us our role, right? Our role is not to judge. Our role is to love. Yeah. Wow, wow, wow. And you guys are saying, here we are. Let me get back to the beginning here. Sushu says, that is good that the inability to experience love in itself is already a punishment. We don't need to do anything. Justice is made. Very true. That justice happens inside each of us. And Sherry says, can you do your life review while here before we cross over? Such a great question, Sherry. Yes, as a matter of fact, I actually know one person that's part of her gifting is to help people go through the life review before they cross over so that that learning is kept here on the earth plane so that they can teach others about what they learned through their own life review. Isn't that amazing? So that's her gifting that's coming in. So yeah, it is absolutely. And the more that we heal ourselves here, that is a little bit like going through a life review, that we heal by facing ourselves, by encountering ourselves. So absolutely we can. Yeah. Super, super cool. All right, you guys, I hope you have an amazing, amazing weekend. I want to let you guys know that the next session of Soul Convergence is going to be coming up. So if you want to engage more deeply in your healing, it is an amazing opportunity, and I'll be sharing more specifically some of the reactions, comments, what's happened for people who are in the program, so you can hear about it, so you can hear for yourself what people are experiencing and the incredible healing that they've been going through. We're still in the middle of the program. We're working through feminine energy right now. The new program will start February 10th. So I will tell you guys a lot more about it, but I just want to put it on your calendar. If you want to be part of it, if you want to know more, I'll be sharing a lot more in the coming days. So, all right, you guys, have a wonderful, wonderful holiday season. Sending you guys lots of love, and I'll see you next Friday live. Bye-bye.